Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about step 3 of the recovery journey, setting an aim, having a target so you know where to move, because anxiety sufferers are in this limbo-like unknown state of confusion, continuously walking in circles in pain because, well, in that circle, they're clinging to external objects that make them feel safe and reassured. They become dependent on these external things, like reassurance seeking from family, friends, Googling symptoms, constant doctor visits, avoidance behaviors, not going to the mall, staying at home in your safe zone. And it limits everything because your whole world shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And that was my world because I suffered from health anxiety. I shrunk my world deep down to the point where I was at home and unable to walk a block from my house without having a panic attack. So, anxiety sufferers are in this unknown space, like they're out in the middle of this ocean and they're trying to gain control because they feel like, well, they're not in control, they're feeling automated and they can't get a grip over what's going on in their life. And so in this video, I want to tackle how you can set an aim, what's the aim exactly, and acknowledging the obstacles in your way, because failure is inevitable. It's going to happen. But first, I want to touch on the unconscious mind. In step 2, we talked about how learning about anxiety is important for regaining that control and that strength and that power that we all have, but we lose it, right? So regaining that power. And we have to learn about anxiety. And when you move from this unknown state of limbo to, oh, I have anxiety, this isn't some strange illness that I thought I had, cancer, disease, for a long period of time. Well, it's anxiety, that's great news, but now I have to start from square one. Okay, what is anxiety? And part of that learning process is learning about the unconscious mind, because the unconscious mind makes up a huge part of who we are. I am shocked that in our education system, we are not taught these basic underlying structures within us. The primitive brain, the more evolved brain, our cortex, prefrontal cortex. Why aren't we taught these parts of the brain? And because if we're taught this, we can use these systems to overcome anxiety and chaos in our life, right? So the unconscious mind is made up of the amygdala, so that's our fear response. Our unconscious mind is where habits are formed. So 30 days is how long it takes for a habit to become ingrained and automated, because our unconscious mind, it wants to automate us as much as possible. It doesn't want to think critically because that takes up energy. And so it wants us to run so automatically that we don't use up too much inner resources. So for me, I get up in the morning, I meditate, I stretch, I do my morning routine. I don't think about it, I just do it because I ingrained that pattern. When I do these videos every Monday, I'll sit down and I'll write in the morning what I'm going to talk about. Or when I do a podcast, I know what time and I know what I have to do. And partly it's because I plan my days. But why I'm telling you about the unconscious mind is because to set an aim, you can work with your unconscious mind to really hone in on what you want and what you want to manifest. I will leave a link above to this exercise, this guided exercise I do with you, but it's the manifestation movie exercise. It's really important because it speaks to the unconscious parts of ourselves, the 95%. And when we sit and do this meditative exercise, your unconscious recognizes emotions and images the best. So the manifestation movie exercise is something you do in the morning, and what it does so brilliantly is that it sets you up for the day, what you want to manifest. So it tells the unconscious mind, this is what Brad wants. And then after that, it's important to journal what you want, because when you write out what you want, you're also speaking to the unconscious mind. So this is a top-down approach. You're using parts of the brain to speak. It's like coding, right? You're literally writing code for your unconscious programming. Now that's worth thinking about. And now, when you set an aim, you are going to stumble forward because you're new at this. Whenever you learn to drive a car, you will feel like a fool. You don't want to go out and drive. You don't want to go to that karate class the next day because you know what? You're new at this. And when you start to understand that consistent exposure to this new information will only develop your mind, well, you're going to advance quickly and reduce the amount of stress you're putting on yourself. So you're going to stumble forward, and failure is a marker, right? It's an orientation mechanism. You fail, what happens? You feel the negative emotion. You feel the anxiety. Well, it's painful, but that negative emotion is an indicator of, well, this is where I don't want to be. So the more times, the more you experience those moments of this is not where I want to be, what happens? You're less likely going to be there, right? And that's why pain is so important for recovery. Pain is necessary for growth. If you don't lift weights to the point of pain, then your muscles won't develop as quickly. And so no pain, there's no gain. And you have to add fuel to the fire because you're going down this new path. Your unconscious will do its best to pull you back into what's familiar because you've been practicing habits that have kept you in pain for a long time. And now that you're determined to overcome anxiety, right? You are introducing new habits like meditation, like journaling, like breathing exercises, like cold showers, like no FAP, like walks in the woods. You're reducing your time on your phone, things like that. It's difficult to reprogram those programs that have been so strong within you. And so it's important to, and I recommend you do this, write down right now, what would my life be like a year from now if I don't change, if I remain stuck in this anxiety? Well, my kids are going to feel, I'm not going to have that relationship with them, and they're going to grow up so quickly, and I'm going to miss out because I'm so stuck in my internal world. Or, my family is not what I like, my relationship with them is not what I want it to be. Or I'm not going to have control over how I feel. I'm going to suffer from panic attacks. My work life is going to suffer. What are you going to look like? Are you going to look weak? Are you going to look drained, exhausted? What does that look like to you? And then write it all down. And then right after that, what would my life be like a year from now if I have more control over my life? If my life was more like Brad's, what would it be like? Well, I would have more control. I would be more in the present moment. I would feel stronger and healthier, more confident. What is that to you? So that's setting an aim. Be precise with what you want. This is really important, and I hope you're writing this down. And remember, I left a link above and below to that manifestation movie exercise that I highly recommend you do so that you can talk to your unconscious mind and say, hey, this is what I want. And the more you do that, the more your unconscious gets it. And your recovery is your responsibility. Remember, step 1 is take on the responsibility. Why? It's because at that point in my recovery, I realized that my parents can't help me, my doctor can't help me, my friends can't help me. All of these dependent substances, they're not helping me. So my map of the world is not working. That is painful to acknowledge and realize. That realization is painful. And so now you have to redraw the map. And so you have to start from square one. That's painful. And having that mentor, finding somebody who went through the same pain and suffering as you and who's gotten better, will learn from them. That's part of step 2, learning from them. And then here, it's determining your aims. What do you want? Because you are going to go like this through this whole recovery journey. Things are going to get worse before they get better. What does that mean? Well, when you come to the realization that your map is insufficient, your programming is wrong, that's painful. So that requires more awareness. You are more aware now that your map is insufficient. So what do? Well, you have to introduce all of these new techniques and strategies, and you're going to start to fail, and you are going, like I see this with my clients, they want to fall back into unconsciousness. They sort of miss being unconscious, running on Pleasure Island in this dependent state. But when you go and begin this recovery journey, what happens is that you become more aware of your insufficiencies, and that brings about a lot of pain. And because you are more aware, you are less likely to fall back in unconscious ways. So it's an up and down journey. So you might have a setback over here, and it makes you question, like, I'm not doing this right. I'm never going to get better. You start to bring about this set mindset. This is just who I am, without realizing that you're here and you used to be over here. So part of this journey is the reflection and the recall of how far you've already come. Well, let's look at that. Well, look how much things have changed for you, how much you've learned, the more independent you are now than you were before. And it gets cloudy because it's an up and down journey, because you are going to have those lows, and it's difficult. Now, lastly, I just want to ask you, are you taking recovery seriously enough? If you aren't, I recommend that you invest in yourself and you buy my anxiety recovery program. It's structured, it has releasing trauma exercises, it has meditations, it has audiobooks on the brain, it has a workbook where you answer questions that make you more aware of what you're feeling and what you're currently experiencing. And then there's the journal, and that also helps with being more in tune with yourself, because anxiety sufferers are so detached from who they are. So I recommend you download that. The link is below. And lastly, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video or podcast. Bye for now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be one of the first to know. Namaste.